All right, get ready, because today we're going to jump right into online dating. We're going deep on Tinder, the app where you swipe left or right to find a match. But behind those swipes, there's actually this whole story about gender imbalances in who uses the app. And it's not just, numbers. It actually says a lot about different cultures and how people view dating around the world.
Yeah. It's like looking at different societies through this lens and seeing how their ideas about, well, gender roles and technology and romance, how all of those things affect who uses Tinder and how.
Okay, so what we're going to do is look at some data about how people are using Tinder all over the globe. We'll look at worldwide trends and then zoom in on specific places like the US, Europe, even India. Hopefully we can figure out some of the reasons for these differences between men and women on the app and maybe, rethink some of our assumptions along the way.
I think you'll be surprised by what we find.
Data on the screen, numbers come alive. Male, female flows where the patterns thrive. Visual charts, public colors unify. Gender decoded, bringing truth to light. Small drum fill. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
Imagine going to a party where it's like 3 guys for every 1 girl.
Oh, yeah. Totally different energy than a more balanced crowd.
Exactly. And that's what we're seeing on Tinder, but like on a global scale.
So it's not just a small thing. This is a big deal.
Huge. Globally, Tinder's split is about 75% male, 24% female, and just 1% non-binary.
Right.
So that starting difference already creates this ripple effect,
It totally makes sense. Okay, so let's get into some specifics. The article highlights this crazy stat. In India, a whopping 93% of Tinder users are male. What's going on there?
Well, India is a perfect example of how cultural stuff plays a huge role in online dating. Arranged marriages are still common there, so the whole idea of choosing your own partner might be like taboo, especially for women.
I hadn't even considered that.
Right. Plus, imagine the societal pressure. Like, if your family isn't cool with you using a dating app, that adds a whole other level of complexity.
Oh, for sure. That's not something we really think about in many Western cultures.
Oh.
But it also makes me wonder about the safety aspect for women in India.
Definitely a factor. The article mentions safety concerns, but, reading between the lines, India has a tragically high rate of violence against women.
Right.
So using an app where you're putting yourself out there, it raises a huge red flag, not just for women, but for their families, too.
Yeah, it's really sad to think about how that limits choices for those who want to use dating apps. So how does that compare to the US or Europe, like places where apps are way more common?
Good question. In the US, it's around 65% male, so there's still a gap, but nothing like India.
Okay, so less extreme. What about Europe?
Europe is fascinating. It's almost a 50-50 split.
Whoa, really? That's a huge difference.
Right. And it's not just the gender split. Europe also has way more non-binary users, like around 3% compared to the global 1%. That suggests something interesting about overall acceptance of different gender identities.
So we've got India, where culture is clearly a big influence, and then Europe, which seems way more progressive. Where does the UK fit in? They kind of do their own thing.
Yeah, the UK is always interesting. They're at 56% male, so closer to balanced, but still leaning male. And their non-binary representation is about 2%, closer to Europe's.
Makes you wonder if that's like a spillover from mainland Europe or if there are some specific UK factors at play.
Could be a bit of both.
Fascinating. And, this isn't just about numbers on a screen, right? This impacts how men and women experience Tinder. It's got to be totally different in India versus, say, Sweden.
Oh, absolutely. In a male-dominated region, men face intense competition. They might feel like they have to pay for those boosts or super likes just to get noticed.
It's like they're almost forced to stand out.
Exactly. Women, on the other hand, they might get bombarded with messages, leading to that swipe fatigue everyone talks about. It becomes less about genuine connection.
More about just wading through all the noise.
Exactly.
Okay, so in a more balanced place like Europe, does it kind of even the playing field? Do women feel safer, more in control?
Yeah, you'd think so. There's likely a greater sense of agency, but it's not like a perfect utopia or anything.
Right, of course.
And we can't forget about non-binary individuals. They face unique challenges everywhere, from being misgendered to just finding matches who are open to dating outside the binary.
Yeah, that adds another layer of complexity, so it's more than just men and women. This impacts everyone differently.
For sure, it's a really complex issue.
It is. And it reminds us that online dating reflects the real world, like with all its inequalities and everything. So what does the article say is driving these patterns? Why such a huge difference between, like, India and Sweden?
Well, they hit on some key points. First, cultural norms are huge yee, right? What's acceptable in one place is totally taboo in another. Then there's access to technology. Like, even if people have smartphones, comfort levels using apps can vary drastically.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's the whole culture around it.
Exactly. It goes way deeper.
Okay, so culture and tech are big, but what about Tinder itself? Do they have any role to play in this?
That's a good question. The article suggests their marketing strategies could be influencing who joins in different regions. Like, imagine if their campaigns in India, even unintentionally, appealed more to men.
Oh, that makes sense. It could totally contribute to that gender gap we see.
Right. And then, of course, there's the safety issue again. If women don't feel safe, they're not going to use the app, period.
It's a basic need.
Exactly. That's something Tinder needs to take seriously. Stronger moderation policies to fight harassment would be a good start. They could also run campaigns specifically for women, highlighting safety features and, success stories to build trust.
Yeah, like showing that it can be a positive experience. So it sounds like a one-size-fits-all approach just won't cut it.
Nope. What works in Europe might flop in India and vice versa.
It's about being aware of those nuances.
Right. And that's where things get really interesting, because when we start thinking about solutions, not just problems, we're talking about changing the whole fabric of online dating.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What kind of changes are we talking about?
Well, for starters, what if we moved away from the swipe-based model entirely?
Whoa, really? Ditch the swiping. That's like Tinder's whole thing.
I know, right? But hear me out. Right now, it's all about those split-second judgments, based on photos, which can be like super superficial.
Yeah, it's like reducing someone to a thumbnail. You miss all the nuances that actually make someone attractive. So if we ditch the swipe, what takes its place?
Imagine an app that's all about shared interests, shared values. You get matched based on your favorite books, your travel goals, the causes you care about.
Okay, I like where this is going. You're basically skipping the small talk and getting to the good stuff right away.
Yeah.
But would that really work across different cultures?
That's the big question. What flies in a culture that's all about individual expression might not work somewhere more like collectivist,
Yeah, totally. So these solutions would have to be adaptable, almost like different versions of the app for different places.
Exactly. It's not just about changing the tech, it's about understanding the people using it. But are there even any apps out there doing this stuff? Or is it all just like hypothetical?
Yeah, is this real or just a dream?
Well, there are definitely apps experimenting, but it's still early days. There's this one app that uses personality tests and open-ended questions to match people based on their values and communication style.
So it's less about how hot someone looks and more about if you can actually have a decent conversation. I like that. It takes some of the pressure off that initial judgment,
Totally. It lets people showcase their personality.
But what about safety? Would these new models actually be better, especially for women?
That's the tricky part. No matter how you design it, you can't fully eliminate the risk of, bad actors. But these alternative models could incorporate features that give users more control. Like, imagine filtering potential matches based on shared values or even previewing someone's personality before you connect.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's about giving users more tools to, curate their experience and feel safer.
Exactly.
But it's not all on the app developers, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a cultural shift, too.
100%. We need to change the whole conversation around online dating. There's still such a stigma, especially for women.
Yeah, like it's somehow less legitimate than meeting someone in person.
Right. We got to dismantle those narratives.
How do we do that?
Hmm.
Is it about how the media portrays online dating? Like showing more diverse, positive stories?
Definitely. We need more rom-coms where the couple met online, more TV shows normalizing it. It's about showing the whole spectrum of experiences, not just the hookup culture or the catfishing horror stories.
And maybe even challenging those gender stereotypes, too. Like, why is it still weird for a woman to make the first move online?
Totally. Why do men always feel pressured to be the pursuer? If we're talking about equality, it starts with questioning those assumptions about how we're supposed to act.
Okay, so better tech and a cultural shift. But what about the users themselves? What can they do to make things more equitable?
Oh, that's huge EE. We always focus on the big tech companies, but individuals matter too. Start by being aware of your own biases. We all have them, right?
Yeah, totally.
Take a second to think about how those biases might be shaping your swiping habits. It's a good first step.
It's like checking your baggage at the door before you even step into that online dating world. What else can users do?
Be respectful, Even if you're not interested romantically, treat people with kindness. Don't ghost. Don't send rude messages. Don't treat people like they're disposable.
Right. Like, remember, there's an actual person on the other side of the screen. Easy to forget sometimes.
So true.
But what if you see someone being harassed or treated badly? How do you handle that?
Don't be a bystander. Report it to the app. Offer support if it feels appropriate.
It's about creating a culture where that stuff just isn't okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so apps changing, culture changing, users changing. It feels like a lot of tea.
It is a lot, but that's how it is with these systemic problems. They need systemic solutions. And there's one more piece I want to bring up, the potential of AI.
Wait, AI matchmaking? Is that even a thing?
Oh, it's getting really sophisticated. Imagine an AI that analyzes your personality, your values, your past dating experiences, and uses all that to find matches that are truly compatible with you. It could be huge.
That sounds kind of amazing, but also kind of creepy. Like, how much control are we willing to give to an algorithm when it comes to love?
That's the ethical debate we're going to have as this tech gets better. But the potential's there to make dating way more efficient, more personal, maybe even more successful.
It's like we're on the edge of a whole new era. Lots of possibilities, but also some potential pitfalls. Where do we even go from here?
I think the key is to be really critical about these advancements. Are these changes really making online dating more equitable, more fulfilling for everyone, or are we just repeating the same old patterns of inequality with a shiny new package?
It's about using tech for good, not just for profit or convenience.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say this. The future of online dating is up to us. We have the power to demand better from the apps, to challenge those harmful norms, and to be more mindful in our interactions. If we can do all that, then maybe, just maybe, we can create a digital dating world that reflects the kind of love and connection we all deserve.
That's a powerful message. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and come back to explore those potential solutions and what they could mean for the future of online dating. Wow, we've really gone deep on this one, haven't we? From that whole gender gap on Tinder to the idea of AI playing matchmaker. It's a lot to think about.
It really shows you how online dating is like this little window into society, All our biases and desires and how we try to connect in this digital age, it's all right there.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror. We see those same inequalities playing out online, but also like glimmers of hope that tech could actually make things better, make things more inclusive.
Exactly. And that brings us back to what we talked about before, that individual responsibility piece. We can't just wait for the tech companies or society as a whole to change. We all have a part to play.
So what does that look like, practically speaking? What can our listeners do, right now, to make a difference?
Well, first, take a look at your own swiping habits. Are you unconsciously following those same biases we've been talking about? Are you being as fair to others as you are to yourself? It's about challenging those assumptions we all have, being more intentional about who you connect with.
So it's like, before you even start swiping, take a moment and think, why am I swiping right on this person? Is it because I genuinely think they're interesting? Or am I just following some narrow idea of beauty that society has drilled into my head?
Exactly. And if you see someone being treated badly on an app, don't just scroll past, report it, call it out, offer support if it feels right. It's about creating a space where that behavior just isn't acceptable.
It's like that saying, if you see something, say something. Applies online just as much as offline.
Totally agree.
And we should also demand better from these companies, right?
100%. We have the power to, vote with our wallets and our voices.
Absolutely. We should support the apps that are trying to make things better. The ones that prioritize safety and inclusivity and, actual meaningful connection instead of just superficial stuff.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to call out the apps that aren't doing enough.
Right. Write those reviews, contact customer service, post on social media about it. Let them know what you think.
They'll have to listen if enough of us speak up.
It's about remembering that these companies are accountable to us, the users. But beyond the apps themselves, there's that bigger conversation we need to have, right? About the culture around online dating.
You got it. We need to challenge those outdated beliefs, especially the stigma that still exists for women. It's about making online dating normal, showing it's a valid way to meet people no matter who you are or what you're looking for.
And that starts with having those honest conversations with our friends, family, communities.
Right.
Sharing our experiences, good and bad, breaking down those stereotypes that are so ingrained in our heads.
Love that. It's about celebrating all the different ways we connect,
Exactly. There's no one right way to find love, online or off. It's about being open to new things, questioning what we think we know, and just embracing how wonderfully messy it all can be.
Yes. Embracing the beautiful messiness of it all. I love that.
Me too. It feels like the perfect way to sum up this whole conversation. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one last thing you want to leave our listeners with?
I think I'd say this. Online dating is always changing. New apps, new tech, new challenges. It's constant. But the important thing is we're all just humans looking to connect. Let's be kind to each other, have some empathy, remember that we're all in this together. And if we can do that, maybe, just maybe, we can create a digital dating world that truly reflects the love and connection we all deserve.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of online dating. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even inspiring. Until next time, happy swiping, everyone.